Board meeting of Wednesday, November 25th at 6:30 to order. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. And Billy, could you take roll call, please?
Supervisor Henriksen. Here. Supervisor Cole.
Here.
Supervisor Olson.
Here.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Here.
Supervisor Ledke.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and we'll open public forum right now. And just a reminder, this is to make comments to the board about topics that are not on the agenda for the night. We try to limit it to 3 minutes. So come on up, please. State your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Julia Burbach. I live over on East Martin Lake Drive. Some of you may know me. Oh, wow, I got loud. Some of you may know me as the former recycling assistant, and I wanted to offer some perspective to the board tonight as a former employee. At the last board meeting, in the discussion surrounding the recycling coordinator's resignation, there were some concerns about whether, oh, now I cut out. Oh.
Okay.
There were some concerns about whether changing the recycling supervisor assignments would set a precedent for other employees that they might have some say in who their boss is. I wanted to say that I think that precedent would be an extremely reasonable and even admirable thing to set. Something to keep in mind is that everyone on the town board is a resident who is elected and they manage the employees, but most people don't have that training and background. And that's not a criticism of any board member. I know that everyone here works extremely hard for the township and we deeply appreciate that. But this isn't your typical workplace environment where an employee is working under a manager who's been there for years, worked up to management position, knows all the ins and outs and can guide the employee through that. In many cases, the employee has been around longer than the board members. Board members change every 2 years. These department assignments also are reevaluated and changed every year, sometimes more often as needed. And my understanding is that that is done. It's kept fluid so that supervisors are placed where they best serve our community. I think that if a supervisor is in a department where they're putting enough strain that an employee who wants to stay, feels that they need to resign, then maybe that's not the best place for that supervisor to be placed. Again, this is not a criticism. I know that everyone's doing their best for the township. As a resident, I would like to see the town board prioritize keeping quality employees. Staff changes are expensive. They disrupt day-to-day township activities. They put a strain on the town board that already has a limited capacity. You may be worried about the message that this would send to other employees if you were to change the recycling supervisor, but as a former employee, the message that I would hear is that I value you, I respect you, and I'm willing to work with your needs for the good of the township. And I think that that's a worthwhile message to send. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, is anybody else wanting public forum? All right, seeing nobody, we will close this section for public forum and we will move on to number 5, which is the approval of the agenda.
I'd like to add recycling coordinator to the agenda, please.
All right. Since this was talked about, this will be old business. We okay putting it at 8-7? It'll be later in the evening. All right, 8-7. Is recycling coordinator. All right, any other changes or additions?
Do we want to talk about the letter of interest for planning and zoning? Which is in the consent agenda.
If you want to pull it out for discussion, then you can pull it out when we get to the consent agenda.
I mean, I guess what are we approving with it being in the consent agenda? Just approving the acceptance of it?
Correct.
And then what follow-up happens from there?
This would be accepting the letter of interest and that person into that position.
So it'd be hiring them?
So let me ask this, what's being brought before the board? I went through this days ago, so I don't remember.
6.6 is, if you scroll down, let me find the page. It is page 17. It's a Word doc of just a letter of interest from Andrew Schmidt for,
Correct. So typically what happens in the past is that if a person has submitted a letter of interest, it usually goes to the committee first. They review it and then it gets sent on to the board. The board reviews it and then typically it makes the appointment on to the committee.
okay, gotcha.
Yep.
So this is accepting them onto the committee.
Correct.
I think we should pull that for discussion.
Okay. We'll do that when we get to the consent section. All right, so we'll note that for the next section. Is there any other suggested changes? Hearing none. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I didn't hear you. Did you vote?
I was on aye.
Aye. Oh, okay. Must have talked right at the same time as Bob. Sorry. All right, that motion passes 5-0. All right, and the approval of the consent agenda, and this is where we'll pull 6.6. And we can put that as 7.4 under new business. All right. Motion to approve the consent agenda with that modification.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the one modification.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries 5-0. All right, new business, town board meeting minutes. Ms. Larson.
So this is coming before you just as an opportunity for me to make some adjustments to how the minutes are done. In my research of all the township minutes, there are many different styles. Some that are almost like a transcript, some that are kind of in between, and some that are what I would say is incomplete. And this is my way of laying out the minutes and how I think that they should be done. Basically with all of the most important information and leaving out some of that extra detail because we have the videos now that have the transcript on the bottom, and making this really truly you can read it in a minute, you're getting all the actions, you're getting all the pertinent information, and any detail that you want outside of that can be viewed from the audio or the video. So I'm asking you guys to take a look at the policy that I kind of drafted and see if there's anything that you would like to change, or if it's something that you could get on board with. Because our minutes right now, they have a lot of detail, and sometimes they get very, very long depending on the length of the meeting. And I would like to try to make them as more, I guess, attention to the big details as possible and leave some of the extra stuff out. But I don't want to make that decision without you guys, so.
Yeah, I like the recommendation. Any questions on it? Mark?
So I like the idea of the recommendation a lot. I'm just going to advise possibly removing the language that they must document and creating an exhaustive list. So as you're kind of getting used to me being the person who says, don't over legislate yourself. I don't want to be put in a situation to where your meeting minutes are missing something. We end up in litigation with someone and it just becomes a nightmare because they start ripping apart all our meeting minutes because we have a policy that we have to disclose in discovery, and that policy says that we must include all of this and we didn't. And then they're going to use that to indict our meeting minutes. it's a mess. So I think that if we just change the language here to, it is encouraged that, and then Billy, you just make that your practice.
Okay.
I would just prefer having that to say, you know, you're to keep, actually, I'm gonna find the statute. I want to put the statute in there. You're required to keep minutes according to this statute. That's all that you're required to do by law. This policy is above and beyond that, and all of that's going to be discretionary, is what I would advise. So have this be your best practices. This is what you do, but removing the must language, I would just advise.
So would it be better, Mark, to have this more of a standard operating procedure than actual policy?
I would prefer that.
Because that would be pretty easy to fix.
You good with that, Billy?
Absolutely.
Okay. So there's no action to be taken on this if it's going to be an SOP. And you'll make the changes that Mark suggested, I would assume. Wonderful.
And that statute, Billy, is 365.55. Town clerk is meeting clerk and minutes to be filed. That statute details you must contain the full text of every order, direction, and rule made by the meeting. If the town clerk's absent, you can elect a clerk at the meeting. That's irrelevant. But this is just kind of all that you're bound to do by statute. So
So the SOP is just more supplementary and
exactly.
getting all 5 board members on the same page.
Perfect. That sounds great.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is the Martin Lake Road plan and bidding approvals. What this is in working with the engineer, now that we've got the easements resolved and we can move forward beyond that, he's ready to move on with the next phases of the project, which is going to be to get the approval of the board on the plans and then also authorization to go out for bids. And those bids, he will probably go out very early in January. He said typically if it's before January, contractors are so excited about getting out of the field and he says they usually don't look at anything until January anyway. So the recommendation that I made was for the board to approve the construction plans and authorize the engineer to conduct the bidding process. So let's see, so it's actually 2 motions. So I'll make a motion to approve the Martin Lake Road construction plans as presented by the town engineer.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
If I could just, I haven't heard much about this project, Supervisor Olson. So have you all already held a public improvement hearing prior to ordering the bids, ordering the plans and specs and going out for advertisement of bids?
I'm not familiar with that happening, no.
Okay. I may advise you all, and we're not really on a massive time crunch here, it seems like. There are statutory requirements under Minnesota statutes 429 to hold 2 different sets of public hearings in a road improvement process, or any type of municipal improvement that you do. That process involves a improvement hearing where the public comes, and it's essentially the litmus test to where you say, we've got, it starts with getting a feasibility report. Have you gotten a feasibility report from the engineer? So this is, you're looking to improve a stretch of road, right?
Yeah, that would have been
Mill and
way, yeah.
overlay or something like that?
Mhm.
Okay. So they'll prepare a feasibility report. That feasibility report needs to include statutory language in there. It needs to be necessary, feasible, and might be in the best interest, is the 3 criteria that have to be in there. There's a resolution that approves the feasibility report. After the feasibility report, we'll set a improvement hearing to where the public will get to come hear about it. You'll have statutory requirements to notice everybody who is an individual who'll be impacted by the assessments of the road improvement.
No, there's no assessments. It's all done on a grant.
And this is, so, okay. Then you guys are probably fine cruising the way that you're going. Then I don't have any different issues. If it's on a grant, you're fine moving the way that you're moving. You're not bound by chapter 429. So
Okay.
I just didn't know the backgrounds of this. That's helpful context.
Yep. No, I was gonna say, because this early on, before we gave permission to go forward with grants, you
Yep.
know, we reviewed, I would guess the feasibility and stuff like that at that point. That's what we approved the engineer
Sure.
based on. So, and then we did have the one hearing with the affected people along the road
Great.
stretch, so, yeah,
Okay, perfect.
excellent. Thanks, Mark.
Sorry for that confusion.
Nope, that's okay. That's what we're here for. All right, any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Second motion now is, I'll make a motion to authorize and direct the town engineer to conduct the Martin Lake Road project bidding process at a time that provides the best competitive rates. The bidding process will include alternate bids from the town hall and fire department parking lots.
Second it.
Motion is made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Yep. All right. And we will move on to the recording of board workshops. Supervisor Cole.
So a little bit before I joined the board changed to start recording officially all town board sessions, which I think was a very good change. Recently we changed it to start recording planning and zoning committee meetings as well, which I also believe is a good change. And after just a while of doing these workshops, I think I've made up my mind that it's my opinion that we should be recording those as well. And I've heard generally 3 concerns as to why we should not be doing that. And I don't think any of those concerns are valid, which I've explained in writing in further detail. But just to go over briefly, I've heard that workshops don't need to be recorded because they're open to the public. Don't agree with that. Could say the same thing about town board meetings. I don't think it was a valid reason then. I don't think it's a valid reason for the workshops. There's people who want to be able to engage with this at home. And I think that we should be making that a priority for them to be able to do so. Recordings will obstruct the informal environment that makes workshops effective. This is probably one of the more valid concerns. The idea of the workshops being that we don't make decisions during them and we don't record them to try to keep the environment informal, to like collaborate more so people aren't so stressed and tight. The issue with this, I think that's valid, but the issue is that the flip side of that is it kind of implies that we're more comfortable talking about issues when we know we're not being recorded. It's kind of the implication there, and I don't think that's true. But I think that when we give that as a reason, it does imply that. And so I think that while the concern might be valid, I think that transparency outweighs that concern. And then the final concern is that some staff are uncomfortable attending meetings that are recorded. Again, I think this is valid and we should be accommodating staff who feel that way. But I think we should troubleshoot that issue specifically, and throwing out the idea of recording workshops generally just because of some staff who don't attend most workshops, I think is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I don't think it's necessary. We could troubleshoot those issues specifically. So those are the 3 reasons I think that this is something we should really strongly consider doing. But open to hearing other perspectives on it.
Any comments? I personally, it doesn't matter to me. I'm fine with recording those. Yeah, I don't have any issue with it. Bob?
No, not a lot. No.
No, I mean, it comes and goes with depending on subject. I mean, we really haven't had any workshops in the sense either, other than budget. So I know, like last week, Road and Bridge presented an option for that. So that'd be my only hesitation right now, is the concern that we really haven't had workshops in the sense that other communities that I've seen have them. Ours has just been the budget, which is just brainstorming ideas. Nothing's been formalized or done. It's trying to come up with creativity. So I'm indifferent to it, but it's also, we haven't really had one in the sense of what it's going to mean for those people to participate, because that has been a concern brought to me. It's truly sitting here. So, and having everyone scream at them.
Have it be recorded and retained for 7 years. Yeah, no, I think it's totally a valid concern. So how do we want to try to carve that out tonight of like, if somebody attending a workshop requests that they don't be recorded, but they have to participate in it, we'll just shut it off for that portion. Start with that, and then otherwise it's recorded.
I personally think you either record it or you don't. Otherwise, if we start cutting things out, then people are gonna say, why are you cutting things out?
Yep.
Okay. Then my motion is going to be to require all town board workshops to be recorded and uploaded to YouTube in the same way that town board meetings are.
All right, motion made. Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
I would just like to probably, just coming up with this. Talk that through in terms of what our workshops look like and see, because there's a lot that goes with this, because now we gotta update a policy behind it, so I
Mhm.
guess that's the question on procedures we just talked about. If there's board direction tonight on this, then what's the effective follow through on everything else and when?
Yeah, on the video policy. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
So I won't support it right now. I'm not saying I won't, but I think there's more work to do around it to framework it, because like I said, we've only to really get to where it needs to be, like it just got put into place here just to pretty much get the budget stuff, because that's been so out of way. But if different departments are gonna start having a workshop and be specific to that, we should be able to map that out and be able to know what that's gonna look like.
no, I agree. I think it's a really good point. And so we have the video policy, the recording policy. And maybe what we should do is, since it seems like there's a consensus of the board that that we agree with the recording. I'm just wondering if we should update the policy and bring that back for approval, rather than this just being a separate motion, like Andy was saying. Update the video recording policy to include this, bring it back at the next meeting, and then the policy gets approved. It can go through the consent agenda.
Yeah, happy to do that.
Everybody okay with that? All right. You can either rescind your motions, or I can,
I will rescind my motion.
I think you seconded, did you?
Yeah, okay.
Or no, Lisa did, sorry,
I did.
Lisa did. Sorry, put a lot of pressure on you. Did you want to say anything? Yeah, come on up if you want. Then name and address, please.
311 227th Avenue. What's the purpose of a workshop?
You have to pull the mic closer, I think.
What's the purpose of a workshop?
Purpose of the workshop is just to spend time getting into the details and stuff, rather than going through all the nuts and bolts in a meeting like this and having it extend for a long period of time. It's just to get into more of the details. We've done many budget workshops and other workshops, and we'll have some people that'll be here, and they usually don't last but about 10 minutes or so, and they leave. It's just,
And do you guys get paid to attend those workshops as meetings?
so far, I'm not aware of a single supervisor that's put in for
Sam saying yes.
I do. I put in my time for those.
the workshops.
Yeah, if I come to a 3-hour meeting on Thursday, I put in that time.
Okay.
Not all of them. Some of the shorter ones I don't put down, but the ones that are long, absolutely.
So there isn't like a clear, this is considered a meeting, a workshop's considered a meeting.
We've battled this
The
discussion so
reason
many
I'm
times on
asking is
compensation.
because I guess for me, being a taxpayer, I see all of these meetings that we're potentially paying for you guys to attend, that is information. Why can't you make a decision when you're here? You know, why can't it be discussed during the town board meeting? You know, you're not city government yet, but why wouldn't you be able to make decisions in the board meeting? I don't know what happens at the workshops. I personally have not attended any, so I don't know. But it seems to me as a taxpayer that it's kind of a waste of money.
So like I said, apparently some have put down for it. I wasn't aware of that. But there's no there's no voting, there's no board action during workshops. So any board action happens in the board meetings itself. It's just the ability to be able to sit there and talk through and consider different ideas, bounce things back and forth.
So potentially you guys could hold workshops on just about anything.
Could just to have the general conversation, sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, but we also have a policy that we put into place where we do not take board action on a topic that's discussed in a workshop in that meeting following it. So if we discuss a new job description, we will not vote on that at the board meeting that follows it.
Following,
That
sure.
way, this way, the reason why we did that was so that it gets put into the board packet for the following meeting. And the public has an opportunity to review it, see it, and if it's something that they want to speak on, then they can come to the board meeting. They have an opportunity to do so.
I mean, that's fair. I think when we're as a community trying to reduce our taxes, trying to balance our budget, trying to make sure that our levy stays where it's at. I'm wondering if that's something that would maintain high priority to have budget or to have these workshops going on.
Yeah, and they may get lesser in the next year. This year, we had a lot of special workshops just for budgeting. I mean, we've had so many budget workshops, but we had to get a handle on it. Software, the way it gets reported right now, super confusing. So it's a matter of getting a handle on that.
Okay, all right, thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, so we rescinded. So this one, if you, Billy probably has a copy, otherwise you can holler at me too and I can get you the policy on the recording.
Okay.
All right. We will move on to 8. Oh, wait a second, don't we have an extra one that we just added in? 7.4, the letter of interest that we pulled.
Yes, so I thought that this just warranted maybe a formal motion, a discussion if anybody's interested in it, but felt like something I didn't want to just approve through the consent agenda. Same with resignations. Probably should just be handled separately, so I pulled it. I'm absolutely in favor of approving this. I'll motion to accept this letter of interest and to appoint Andrew Schmidt to the Planning and Zoning Committee.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Appreciate what you're doing, Sam, because people who either they're gonna start on on a committee or finish on the committee, they deserve recognition.
I agree. It's awesome.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, now we'll move on to old business, 8.1. So this is a law enforcement contract. This is one that we've got with Anoka County. There was some concerns in the last meeting of some of the verbiage. What they did was they took the original contract and from last year and made just a few edits to it, but the bulk of it stayed the same and there were some issues with the terminology. Like one of them was to be using the facility here. And we know that they're not using the facility here. And I did not get a chance to go through. Did anybody else make any updates?
I skimmed through it, but I haven't been able to go through it totally.
So what I'd like to do is table this until the next meeting, but what I would like to do is 2 things. One is I want to go through and we can work through Billy to get these updates. And then I'd also like Mark to take a look at this. Mark has not seen this contract yet, so this would give us time to have Mark take a look at it before we sign it.
Having the old alongside the new would be helpful as well, so I can see the changes that were made.
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
We have time to wait on this?
They've already done their bids and stuff like that, so it doesn't affect what they were working on. Yeah, all right, so I'll make a motion that we table this until the next meeting.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Bring that back to the next meeting. All right, 8.2. This is the Abdo account services for 2026. And I don't have a person's name behind it to speak to this. Let's see, 821.
Page 35, it's you, sir.
That's you.
It's me?
Surprise.
Oh, I'll be darned. Okay. Sorry, it's been a while since I wrote this. Okay, so this is in one of our presentations from Abdo. We've kind of got three different areas that we've worked with them on. And one of the areas is the accounting services. They were brought in after our treasurer had left. They were brought in to help assist through doing payroll, accounts receivable, accounts payable, those kind of things. Basically keep CTOS up to date and work with our staff on it. And when we hired them, it was on a time and materials basis. And so what they've done now is in one of their presentations, they said that if we were to opt to do an annual contract with them, if we did 1 year, it would be a $75,000 fee for 1 year. If it was 2 years, it was 73. And if it was 3 years, it was 71 a year, 71,000 a year. I'm not sure how long we're going to need the accounting services. I think I'm comfortable in another year. And the difference is if we do time and materials, it's going to run the township. And I can't remember what Alicia came up with, but I know when I did the numbers, it came up to at least $108,000.
It's well over 100,000 to do it as we're doing it right now for a year versus
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, I think mine was 108 and I think hers was even higher than that. So if we're comfortable that we're going to use them for at least 9 or 10 months, it probably then makes a lot of sense to just do the 1 year contract with them. And so what I did was I wanted the board to consider this information and to consider doing a contract rather than the time and materials. And have that discussion. If you're comfortable with it, then move forward with a motion to move forward with getting a contract filled out from them and back for the board to consider. Any questions?
Is that a motion?
No, I was first soliciting the board to see what your thoughts are.
With this contract, if I remember correctly, it's not just cheaper, but we get more from them. Is that correct? They're going to be helping us more with the forward planning. So I think my only comment here, I'm all for this, but my expectation would be if we're paying for this and we now have a new treasurer who's starting to get up to speed. I would hope that this next year, we don't have to spend so much time on budget workshops.
Yeah. I'm hoping that before this 1 year contract is up, by the end of that our treasurer is more up to speed and we probably may not need this contract after this first year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Supervisor Olson,
Yes, Mark.
what is the total value of the contract? How much is it for?
75,000 if we do a 1 year contract.
And have you all contemplated municipal contracting laws given the value of the contract? So it's between 25,000 and 175,000, which requires 2 bids. Have you sought out a second bid?
We only did when we did the first round with them. Then we looked at multiple companies.
Okay.
And the other one was we got way less for way more money.
Sure. I would just find one more bid to grab. You have discretion to choose which bid you choose. It's not like if you go over 175,000 where you get into the sealed bids territory where you need to choose the lowest responsible bidder. You can negotiate the prices, the rates, and then select the one that you want under municipal contracting for a value of 75,000. But I would just get that bid and then keep the alternate bid that you don't accept on file for a period of at least a year.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so then my motion will be a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is make a motion to request a formal quote for the annual accounting services from Abdo and at least one other company to be considered and for approval at the December 9th board meeting. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, we'll move on to the drug and alcohol policy. Yeah, last one was at 3-5. Now you all know I make copies before I come to these meetings. I didn't tonight.
Before.
54, thank you, Bob. Okay, so this is to correct the drug and alcohol policy contact. In the drug and alcohol policy that we approved back on July 9th of last year. It has in there two contacts, and it's referred to as designated employer representative, DER. And what we've done is we actually in the past named two names, and they were a past supervisor and a past employee. So of course, the drug and alcohol policy is inaccurate right now. So if they were trying to contact either one of those two individuals, they would not be able to. So when we did, if we do some drug and alcohol policies or testing, this would be an issue. So all I'm asking for is to update it. And with talking with the clerk, it kind of makes more sense if we can use titles rather than a specific name. That way it doesn't matter who's in those roles, they would be the contact. So my recommendation is going to be for the clerk and the chairperson, naming them by title. So I'm going to make a motion to modify the drug and alcohol policy adopted on July 9th, 2024 to replace page 6, section 1 to read designated employer representative DER is the Linwood board chairperson. And the secondary designated employer representative DER is the Linwood Township clerk. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Is it pretty loud? Nobody can ever complain that they can't hear me. What's the next page, Bob? All right, thanks, Andy. All right, this is the school force committee appointments. Supervisor Cole.
Right, so at our previous board meeting, we appointed Beth Ripple, contingent on the resignation of the longtime school forest committee treasurer, Diane Seltz. The board requested also that I look into exactly who's on the committee, so we can reaffirm those appointments. So I did do that. I got in contact with Bob and Billy. Billy looked in the office and I got a list from her. And then I also talked to somebody who represents the school on the school forest committee to get the list from her, compared the list. I believe our list is out of date. Jesse Weiner is no longer on the committee, according to the person from school forest who I talked to. According to their records, and I confirmed it with them, that this person has not been participating in a while. And Diane Seltz is intending to resign. I received her letter like a couple hours before this meeting, so it was not included in this packet. So with that being said, there's only three people out of 4 representing the township on this committee, one of which is resigning. For that reason, I think we should finalize Beth Ripple's appointment and reaffirm the seats of Laura Hammer and Beth Wallen-Rawls as the 3 committee members, and we will accept Diane Seltz's resignation at the next meeting. I'll get that included in the packet. So I'll make that a formal motion to finalize Beth Ripple's appointment to the school forest committee, and to reaffirm the seats for Laura Hammer and Beth Wallen-Rawls.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made, seconded. Any other discussion? Yep, Andy.
Just to then post for the vacancy. Or how are
For
we gonna
for
handle
Diane's or
number-
Jesse's?
Jesse's number 3.
Yeah, he never put in a resignation.
He
that's
never
my
submitted
knowledge.
one.
No.
So do we either take him off officially and then post for it, or
He's been gone for
He's
about
been-
2 years.
yeah.
Well, I was thinking we take him off. And I can amend my motion to reflect this. But we take him off and Beth goes in his seat. And we're accepting Diane next time and then we could post for it then.
Yeah, whatever we gotta do to clean up the membership to get to where that, when there's a vacancy, which apparently there is one right now with Jesse not being there.
Okay,
All right, so I'm gonna make this easy. I'm gonna rescind that motion.
Or send my second.
Thank you. I'm going to motion to accept or would I be accepting his resignation even if he didn't submit it? It was a while ago.
I don't think you can submit a resignation that doesn't exist, but we could declare that position
Remove him.
empty.
Just-
Yeah.
Yep. I'll motion to remove Jesse Weiner from the School Forest Committee and to appreciate the time that he did put into it.
I'll second the motion. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right.
Opposed? All right, so Jesse is off the list.
Perfect. Now I'll make a motion to appoint Beth Riopel to the School Forest Committee.
I'll second it.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then finally, I'm gonna motion to reaffirm the appointees Laura Hammer and Beth Wallen Rawls.
We just, didn't you just appoint?
The first
Beth?
one, let's do that. Well, he's
I
just
appointed
affirming the
Beth.
two.
Well, we removed Jesse and then you appointed Beth. Are you trying to
It's a
reapprove
different
Laura?
Beth.
Yeah, there's two Beths.
Beth Riopel. I'm reaffirming Laura Hammer and Beth Wallen Rawls, who are existing members.
Got it. Okay. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Yes, Sandy?
Are there terms to these or just in terms of, so the records don't go outdated or how they came to be?
Really good question. I don't think anybody's gonna know that answer, but,
In the
Yes.
JPA.
oh. very
Joint
good.
Powers Agreement?
Yeah. And in the JPA, if you can just look and make sure it's for township and for school.
It
And
is.
Principal's not a voting member and neither is the liaison of the township.
Correct. JPA does say that 4 and 4. I'll double check it about the voting members, but me and Gretchen do not vote, neither does Lisa. And then was there something else to confirm? Terms.
Thank you, Bob. Very good. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else with that?
That's it.
Okay. And then next meeting, we'll discuss Diane.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, and move on to the next request for action. This is the approval of the purchase of extrication equipment. And who is speaking to this?
I believe says Ballman.
And I think he added this back in because he was asked to get a second quote.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So the second quote is now there and his recommendation still stands,
Thank
from
you.
what I understand.
Thank you. Yeah, because his first one was for like 15,000.
No, 30. 30,000 for used.
That's right. What's oh, and then 45,972 for the other one. Yeah, significantly cheaper. All right. Is there a motion to accept one of these two bids?
I will make a motion to accept the bid for Dignis Fire Company for 30,035.
Made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Just want clarification, when he put on his little spiel about it, he said it was a 10-year warranty. On the paperwork we were given, it said a limited lifetime. Anybody else remember that?
I remember him commenting on the 10-year warranty.
Okay.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right. Next request for action. This is code of conduct agenda policy.
Oh, nice. Okay. So last few meetings, this has been going on for a while. We were talking about splitting the agenda preparation guidelines into a separate document from the code of conduct, which I have done. I made a mistake when I submitted it to Billy. I did not include one of the more important documents, which you have printed out for you, labeled titled Agenda Preparation Policy. It was also emailed to you today. Apologies on getting that very late. But I will explain it now. This is the meat of it. So if you ever look at the code of conduct, it's basically kind of back to where we started. It's got most of the agenda stuff removed. You will see number 4, agenda preparation. Township clerk directs the preparation of draft meeting agendas according to the agenda preparation policy, which we're about to talk about. Supervisors are expected to abide by that policy when submitting agenda items for an upcoming meeting. So that's what it says in the code of conduct. Then it's like, we're out of the code of conduct, talk about the agenda preparation policy. The first step of that is included in the packet, and it's a dual-sided form. And the first side says agenda request for action. Should look very familiar. Second side, agenda information only. The idea here is this is one document Billy can supply to whoever needs it. We could even print these double-sided, have them in the office available for whoever needs it. And you fill out either one side or the other, depending on what you're asking for. If you're asking for a decision to be made or a motion, you fill out the request for action form. If you just want to put something up for a discussion, information only. Request for action has a lot more things that you need to fill out, like a proposed motion, financial impact. Information only is just kind of like, what do you want to talk about? And then the audience input permitted question, yes or no, that is part of this form. So that's the foundation for the agenda preparation policy, is that if you want to put something on the agenda, it goes through this form with a couple of exceptions, which I'll talk about. When writing this policy, I was trying to keep it as brief as possible without getting overly complicated. And I think the way to do that is to define something I'm calling routine business, which is basically approval of meeting minutes, claims, payroll, variances, and we may append to this list as time goes on, but it is stuff that basically almost every single meeting has and is very routine. These items are going to be exempt from certain parts of this policy, which I'll explain, but the carve out here is town clerk is directed to determine if a proposed agenda item is considered a routine business when preparing the agenda. That's the crux of it. You know, that way we're not spending hours trying to figure out exactly how to define this. It comes down to it. Billy's preparing the agenda. It's up to her what qualifies as routine business. If something gets designated as that and is exempt from something, we have a problem with it, we can clarify it further, but that's a good starting point, I think. Agenda sponsorship is the next section of this agenda preparation policy. This should be familiar. Every item on the agenda needs a sponsor, and there's only certain people who can sponsor. So any of the 5 supervisors can sponsor. And then the township's clerk, township's treasurer, and township's zoning administrator all have a limited ability to sponsor items on the agenda. So what I mean by that is they can submit, once again, routine business items that are directly related to their role. Billy can put on the minutes onto the agenda. She could sponsor that herself. She doesn't need to go to one of the supervisors for that. Zoning administrator could put on a variance without having to go to one of the supervisors. Just trying to make sure we stay out of the way of staff with this policy and not make the agenda preparation harder than it needs to be. Everything else that's not routine business that falls under one of those roles has to go to a supervisor for sponsorship. So that supervisor is the one who's going to be responsible for that agenda item, making sure that it adheres to this policy. And they're going to be the one that, well, I guess whoever is the sponsor is always going to be the one that introduces the item, kind of like we've been doing tonight. And their name will be right next to it, so we know who's introducing it or introducing the person who's going to speak to it. If a resident or a staff member would like to put something on the agenda that's not related, like not falling into one of those carve-outs that we just talked about with the limited, so if somebody wants to put something on for senior center or recycling, they need to go through a supervisor. That is spelled out here in the agenda. It's each supervisor's discretion if, when, how they're gonna sponsor that topic for the agenda. So the idea here being like residents, I don't think staff should be taking those requests from residents. I think that is something that supervisors, if you're gonna say no to having something be on the agenda, that should be coming from a supervisor. That's kind of an uncomfortable position to put staff in. Residents also, you know, if the supervisor is not willing to sponsor your item, which I think would be rare, you've got 5 to choose from. I think it would be very rare that somebody wouldn't sponsor it. We do have the public forum for that purpose as well. So you do have an opportunity to speak no matter what. So then the final part of this section is that the town clerk's directed to reject any item from the agenda that is not sponsored correctly as described in this section. Final section of this document is how to submit it. And that goes back to the forms that I was talking about at the beginning, which is you're either submitting an information only form or you're using a request for action. I got rid of the description stuff. I think that's covered by just filling out one of these 2 forms. Then we're not playing the game of if it's this, it needs a form. If it's that, it just always has a form. Every form has a description. And whether or not you want a motion made will determine how much of the form you're filling out. And the 2 main bits here are that the clerk has determined. Oh, here we go. So there's one bit here, which is minutes, claims, payroll. These things do not need a request for action form filled out, in my opinion. I'd like to carve out for that again, to just limit the work it takes to put this thing together. However, variances, I believe, should have it and should have accompanying documents. So what I put in here is that a request for action is preferred for routine business that's sufficiently complicated. But ultimately, once again, just carving it out, town clerk is directed to determine whether or not an accompanying RFA is required for that kind of routine business stuff, just so we don't spend all day making a document here. Just, I'm sure Billy will do a fine job of determining when that's warranted. And then finally, the town clerk is directed to reject any item from the agenda that is not submitted correctly. And then finally, the information only and request for action forms will be provided upon request to any supervisor, staff member, or member of the public by the town clerk. Printed copies will be made available in the office. So the bold sections are kind of the teeth of this policy, kind of the formal delegations that this would be making. And the rest of it is kind of explaining the context. So that was quite a lot. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Sam?
A lot of work. Thank you.
Yeah, tons of work.
It's where we have been trying to go. I would like to just, obviously, I don't want to approve it tonight. I want staff input on it because, like, you mentioned Billy's name about 100 times in the explanation.
Sure.
So I'd like to for sure get this, that we just got this in front of her for review and be able to support anything back before the board. Because I know from my conversations that packets are, it
Yeah.
can be problematic.
Don't want to make it harder than it already is. Yeah, I do not need this approved tonight. I'm happy to take feedback and come back with a revision, no problem.
Any other comments? So, Mark, have you seen any of this? Have you seen our code of conduct for the supervisors or anything like that?
Yeah, I've taken the opportunity to review it. With respect to code of conduct, I just think that there's one provision in there with staff direction. It's item number 5. It says the township board members direct township staff. I would almost just prefer that read township board direct township staff. And then if we choose to implement a coordinator or whomever, you know, that could also be reflected in there. But again, if we're going back to tracing places where people could say, I have authority to do what I want without going to the board, that could be one of the places that someone could point as a fellow supervisor. If I wanted to go do something, I would just look at this and say, it says board members direct the staff. I get to do it. So I would just clean that up. But other than that, looks good.
Okay, I can make that modification, no problem.
And then, we've talked tonight about policy versus SOP. Some things are better as an SOP versus a policy. Is this better as a policy or an SOP?
So again, I would always, I'll just err on the side of doing SOP. The reason why is, let's say variances, for example, something wasn't technically put on the agenda according to the policy and you approve or deny a variance, and somebody comes back and says, well, no, technically the variance wasn't before you because your policy says that X needed to happen for it to get on the agenda. I'm not saying it's an argument that's going to hold water in court, but I mean, it gives them something to argue if they don't get the outcome that they want. I would prefer to see it as an SOP.
Thank you. That's kind of was, you've made comment before about, just kind of putting the supervisors and, we're kind of handcuffing ourselves in some ways. We're holding ourselves maybe a little bit more strict than what we have to if there's statutes that already exist for some of this stuff. So that's why I was just asking, because this one here is one that we definitely want to follow it, but I don't know whether it would be something that you'd want to take action on, a disciplinary action kind of a thing if somebody didn't follow this 100%. So, but that's just my 2 cents anyway.
And I'll just be clear, we had this conversation last time, and I believe it was some member of the public expressed discontent with it, but it is just a matter of law. You all are elected officials. You are not employees. You are not subject to quote unquote discipline like employees are pursuant to our personnel policy. There's really only a few things that you can do. The chairperson cannot recognize, or if the chairperson's the individual, whomever the presiding officer is, cannot recognize an individual to speak. They can express discontent with what was said, or at most what the board can do is quote unquote censure an individual, which is just a formal vote to say we don't like what you're doing, but you can't kick them out of the room. You can't take away their voting power. The only time that gets to happen is when everybody shows up at the ballot box. If you don't like a supervisor, vote the supervisor out. But yeah, I mean, that's in terms of your code of conduct and stuff. If somebody doesn't follow it, you can't discipline them. It truly is just an SOP, right? It's a standard operating procedure.
So that would be,
So just push back a little bit on that / maybe ask a question here.
Sure.
My interpretation, maybe my interpretation was wrong, was more like that potentially this is not really a recommendation, but it is going to be required for agendas to be done this way. Now, if the board's preference is this is more of a recommendation, I'm happy to reword it that way. But if we want to enforce this, it was kind of phrased as, the clerk is delegated to reject something if it's not done properly. And so with that, I would say to me, it seems like less of an SOP and more of a policy.
I think in that SOP, I mean, the board could vote to delegate to allow Billy to reject something pursuant to this. This one I'm not too terribly troubled by it being called a policy versus an SOP. Like I said, there's that one hypothetical scenario to where you've got a request for zoning action and it wasn't to get it onto the agenda. It didn't follow these exact steps. And then somebody sues you because you denied their variance and they get into a land use appeal. Attorneys dig for everything. And so they're going to, if we get in a lawsuit, we engage in a process called discovery. We're going to exchange all relevant information. So they're going to get all of your operating procedures and policies. And this is the first place somebody goes to look for a technicality to trip you up. And so that's why I just don't want these web of policies out there that are quote unquote binding, just because when you vote something into effect, the court's going to say, you made that policy and you have statutory authority to make policy. So, if you want to do it as an SOP and delegate Billy the authority to reject pursuant to the SOP, that's fine by me. If you want to call it a policy, this one doesn't give me a heart attack if you call it a policy.
So what would making this an SOP mean? What does it just mean? Basically remove maybe some of these bolded parts, rename policy to SOP, and then just put the bolded parts as separate motions?
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Okay. I can do that, no problem.
and I like the idea of giving Billy authority to act upon this, because that's your penalty. If you're not going to follow the procedure, you're not going to get your stuff on the agenda, and eventually you're going to either conform or you're going to get really tired. So,
Yes.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, the board makes policy. You can vote to change it. You can vote to amend the agenda. You can vote to add something on if you get a majority of folks on board, right? So give Billy the say, and if something really gets messed up, the board can step in still. Not saying that you're gonna mess anything up, Billy.
That is honestly something that I think is missing here from this policy is kind of, there's all this work to, be transparent and give people adequate notice for what we're going to be talking about and deciding on. But at the same time, and I'm probably more guilty of this than anybody, I screw up and then I need to add something to the agenda at the last minute. And that doesn't follow this policy, right? So what's the board feel like? Do we want to put in something about how to do that? Do we just want to say, sometimes that's going to happen and it's just a vote? That's how it works.
That's why, it's kind of like statutorily, I mean, my understanding is we don't even have to have an agenda until we get to the meeting, but we always have the flexibility of adding or removing. That's kind of why I was worried about it being a policy versus an SOP is, if somebody does want to add something, the other board members can reject that also at the beginning of the meeting. So it's a suggestion of making a change. It doesn't mean that you get your way all the time. So maybe that can be defined in the SOP so that it's very clear, that the board does have the option of arguing, adding something to the agenda that wasn't in the board packet.
So then maybe I'll just add a little section at the end. It's like, if that happens, just do your best. Maybe fill out the RFA if it's going to be something like that so it can get printed for everybody. But ultimately, like, it's going to be up to the board at the meeting whether they're going to accept a last minute addition.
Right.
And then it's just whatever.
And
Okay.
if that is accepted, just make sure the public copy gets updated as well, and you throw whatever you accept and add into the public copy.
All right. You're gonna do a few changes and bring it back?
Yep, no problem.
Excellent. This is really good too, Sam. It's I would vote for it whether it says policy or SOP, to be honest with you, so
Well,
just.
may as well, cross all the I's and dot the T's.
Sounds good. All right. We're done with 8.6, so we will move on to 8.7, which is the one that we just added. This is the recycling topic, and Bob, I will turn the floor over to you.
Okay, I got a whole stack of papers here that was sent out to every single board member and the attorney. Everybody's seen it, everybody read it. You all understand what it said. I was on Parks a year and a half ago. I had a disagreement with one of the committee members. That committee member went, I thought you were motioning me to shut up, but that person went to the chair. Chair asked me, explain to me what was going on. I said, if it's a better of the committee, I pulled myself out of the committee. I did not have an ego trip. I did not get mad. I thought anything better for the township I want to do, so that's why I did it. I pulled myself from Parks. We need to stick up for our employees. I've said that from day one. I've worked with some incredible board members on this committee. I've worked with the Ed Kramers, the Phil Osterhus, the Mike Hallidays. Everybody walked in knowing that without our employees, we have nothing. It was brought up earlier. I think we got to step back a little bit, let our employees do their job, because it makes our job so much easier. I tried to make a motion 2 weeks ago that I believe would make this township better and keep a incredible employee in the place they are, and I'm gonna make it again. I would like to make a motion to remove Supervisor Ludke from all dealings of recycling.
Okay, motion's been made. And it is a little different than what you said before, so.
Well, I didn't have all this information that everybody got.
Yep, no, just your motion was
Yep.
different is all,
Okay.
but motion's been made. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Supervisor Cole.
I want to talk about this. I've seen the documents as well. A lot of the documents are my emails.
Supervisor Cole, can I jump in for just 1 second, just
Mhm.
briefly? Just so public's aware and is clear for sake of record, the documents that are being discussed are not a part of the public copy. The reason they're not a part of the public copy is the documents being discussed are a part of an employee's personnel file pursuant to the Minnesota Government Data Practices Act. Personnel files, information that is not very generic, basic information like name, job description, etc. That type of information is classified as private under the Data Practices Act and may only be released to the employee and must be kept private by the town board supervisors, which is why they have the authority to view the information in a personnel file. But I would caution against speaking against any details in that personnel file as it is classified as private data.
Correct.
Thank you,
Yep.
Mark.
So I can't talk about any specifics. But a lot of these were emails from me. And I've read them. I'm very sympathetic actually to what you're saying, Bob, about the committees stepping down when there's an issue. That does resonate with me, but at the same time, I'm also hesitant. I think I want to hear a better reason before doing that. And I've seen these emails, I've seen what's in them. There's some specifics, which I will not discuss, but none of them struck me as, and I said as much, struck me as a good enough reason to warrant the removal of a supervisor. So that's where I'm a little bit torn.
I know it was brought up before that we shouldn't cater. I know that wasn't the word you used, cater to employees, because then everybody's gonna expect it. I know for a fact that we changed the hours of the town hall to cater to an employee. I know we changed our public works hours to cater to employees. Again, you cater to good employees. We have a good employee who has an issue with daycare. I can't drop daycare off till 8. Can I show up at 8:15? Yep. Not a problem at all. We do it all the time. Now we have a good employee who's asking for our help and we're pushing the employee to the side and saying, we don't care. Because without voting for this motion, we are telling that employee and future employees that we are God. We are the Almighty. If you have a problem with us, we don't care. We are right, you are wrong. 100%.
All right, any other Supervisor Cole?
I agree. We should be catering to employees where we can. And also what Julia had to say earlier, I believe is also very reasonable where it's not something I had considered, which is that it is probably very difficult to have a boss that changes. You get used to one boss gets retires or whatever happens, it's got a new boss. That does happen, but it doesn't happen as often as it does here. And I'm a little torn on that because at the same time, I think there is a real issue which could happen. I'm not saying it's happening here. I'm not saying it's happening. I think that I've observed this happening generally. Not enough to say that we should never do this, but I am concerned about going too far in the direction of, I don't like my new supervisor. Not saying that that's the determining factor here, but I think it is a concern. So that's kind of what brings me back to, based on what I've seen, I haven't seen any real compelling reason. Like if I heard something extraordinary about why we should be removing Andy, I would be very open to that, but I have yet to hear anything. And so that's why I'm very hesitant to move on this.
Do you want to speak? Gotta say it in the mic though.
Chris Milliburn, 6311-227. I just want to remind you of something. You used the phrases that I think is very telling. You used the phrase boss. You used the phrase as their supervisor. They're not. You're a liaison. You're not anybody's boss. You're not the boss. You're not the controller. You're the liaison. And I think between each committee, and I've been on a number of committees throughout years, between each committee, that town board member that acted as the liaison never ever acted as a boss or a supervisor. Never. In any of the committees I was ever on, they acted as the communicator between the town board and the committee. you've missed your role. You've missed your roles. That's, your job is not to be somebody's supervisor.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Cole.
I disagree. When we were in January and we were appointing these roles, the way that it was explained to me, and again, we need to clarify this in writing because it's not clear at all. But the way it is explained to me is not informational only. There is daily business there's decisions that have to be made. There's daily business that has to be taken care of that can't wait for the next board meeting. And if it's significant, it comes to the next board meeting. But that the liaisons were delegated to keep daily business running. That was my understanding of it. And so when I voted to have Supervisor Ledke be in charge of recycling, I was voting to have him be the boss.
You gotta come up if you're gonna speak. Yes, Supervisor Milliburn.
In the 16 years I've been here, I've worked with treasurers, I've worked with clerks, I've worked with recycling people, I've worked with public works. I'm a carpenter, been a carpenter since 1988. I don't know one thing about recycling. I don't know one thing about being a clerk. I don't know one thing about being a treasurer. But my purpose on this board was to pick smart people to do that job. So I don't have to tell the clerk how to do her job because I'm not a clerk. I'm not a treasurer. I'm not a recycling person. That's their job. They are the professionals. That's what we do up here. We hire smart people. We let them do their job, and it's worked for a long time.
All right, Supervisor Ledke.
To follow up on exactly what Supervisor Cole says, there's day-to-day stuff in between. Who does that? Do we wait 2 weeks? In 16 years, you never directed anybody to do anything. Is that what you're stating? Staff never went for direction. And you told people what to do. That's how we had to do it. So in the case of what we're working on right here, we're working there. That's been me since day one, is to get out of this role. And that's very been public. Because I did not like how it was going, because I was an employee and saw how it interacted with supervisors. So the conversation of getting to a coordinator, that's goal, and that should be fast tracked. Because I don't want 7 calls when I'm at work.
Supervisor Hendrickson.
So, I do agree that the board members should make the decisions the way that we have set it up. We are having weekly meetings where you brainstorm. We got a lot going on back there right now. And I'm thinking 3 minds working together is a great way to move forward, to get things done, what has to be done first. And I have not seen anything that would value for Andy to be removed.
One comment just on yours, Bob, and it's not to be argumentative, because like I get phone calls from our public works employee almost daily, you know, and we talk through different things, and there's times that I have to ask him to do things in a certain way. Either I've gotten a phone call from a resident that has a pothole at the end of their driveway, or there's a road that's got a problem and drainage isn't right, whatever it is. And so, you know, right or wrong, I do give direction to that employee. And I know that when you had Public Works, you also would check in with them on a very regular basis. And if you got a phone call from a resident, I know many times that they would say, well, I can't finish this because I got to go take care of that because Bob called me and had me go out there. So just to make sure that, you know, it's accurate, we have, and it has been, I think, for many, many years, that supervisors do, you know, do work with the employees on setting some direction. Probably nothing major, but more of the day-to-day ins and outs. But what I was trying to look for in the documentation is whether it was a supervisor issue or was it a disagreement in the direction being set. And that's what I tried to look at in the documentation, because I really wanted to try to give this a very unbiased look. And I really struggled with finding anything other than there was a disagreement in the direction of running the program or in the day-to-day decisions of the program. And that was where my struggle was, because I really looked through those documents. And one of those, or at least one of those, was from me, and that was a struggle that I had with it. So, Supervisor Cole.
The other thing here is like, I don't know if there's anybody on this board that disagrees that we want to get away from this whole boss thing. It's a mess. And that's what we're trying to do, and it's complicated. And it's going to cost money. If we want to completely solve the problem, it's going to cost money. And it might be controversial to the township with the administrator role. We've already heard from some residents, they don't love that idea. But the reality is, you know, business tomorrow is going to depend on that, on the status quo. And the status quo is what John's talking about. He has to talk to Jack. Andy has to work with recycling. Lisa has to work with the recycling. I have to work with the web stuff. Andy has to work with the web stuff. Like Billy has to work with all five of us. Like there's directions being given. And the understanding, my understanding, is that these are minor. And if it's anything significant, it comes to the board. And that needs to be clarified in writing 100% until we can get to a point where that is done. And then there's no need for that anymore. But I guess like the issue is like remove Andy. Well, and if we replace him with you, there's still the boss relationship, right? That part's not going away. We're just talking about who's doing it.
That's
Right.
not part of the motion.
Just to remove him.
Not part
Just
of
to
the
remove.
motion to put me anywhere.
But it does leave Lisa, right? So
I think Lisa's talented.
the issue at hand isn't so much the fact that there is a boss role. The issue at hand is Andy in that role.
How the role is being done.
Anything else?
No. Anything?
Yep, please come on up.
Paul Duth, Paul Duth, recycling coordinator, soon to not be potentially, 23037 West Martin Lake Drive. Trying to see how this is playing out, trying to see which way this is gonna go. I'll see if I can clarify some of this simply. Mr. Cole, Supervisor Cole, you're saying that, let's see here, one of the emails that you and I had back and forth, there's a line here that says, while this is currently in process of being clarified in writing, my current understanding is that Supervisors Ludke and Hendrickson have been delegated to oversee day-to-day operations of recycling to keep business moving in between board meetings. So I think what might be the challenge here and what has been some of the main conflict with the supervisor and I is that in my job description, recycling center coordinator, that line 12 says responsible for overall day-to-day operations of recycling and the reuse center. That is what's in my job description, and that is what I've been doing for 6.5 years since Mr. Ed and Miss Carol and Miss Pam at the hiring point that I had. That's the last direction I've had is what this says. So I think what you would either need to do is to reduce some of the conflict or all of it is that that you would need to clarify what a supervisor is responsible in doing back there, and then also what the recycling coordinator is doing, and then possibly changing that. Is this new to you by any chance, this line in my job description?
It is new to me. And I
Okay.
think it's a great point.
Okay. And again, I think that has been a big source because what we've accomplished back there, everyone, and it's not me, all the volunteers and all the history and all the employees. We have accomplished a lot in 6.5 years. But these last 2 years, with Supervisor Ludke as the supervisor back there as the liaison, has been very challenging. And I feel that we've grown even less because of that, because of the distraction that this has been for me and the stress it has put on me. Just especially with the conflict of who is the boss, what is the role of a supervisor, who is actually in charge of this program. There was another comment in here about that Paul and Andy have obviously different visions for the future of the recycling center. And it's like, we've never had that conversation, what the vision for the recycling center and the future is going to be. So it's kind of I'm pulling one way, he's pulling the other. I'm confused as an employee about, well, what is his role? And then, sometimes 6 months or a year later, they're pulled. And then now I have a new supervisor to have this challenge and struggle with, or not. I've had supervisors I've not seen up to 4 months physically, zero, nothing. And then I've had supervisors that are there, every day as a volunteer or on Saturdays. And so it's been very challenging. I know there's rules about what you all can talk about or not talk about. I think I can just say that, if there's something in these documents you all want to ask me questions on or talk about, I'll do my best to answer them. That I'm okay with that. I give the board permission to talk about these. Is that enough to clear that?
Yeah, so the protections of the Data Practices Act are largely to protect the individual who is the employee from having information in their personnel file released. I did have a conversation with, is it Mr. Duth?
Yeah, that's fine.
With Mr. Duth. He had called me previously pursuant to the town personnel policy, which does specify that an employee may call the town attorney to discuss issues that they have discontent with. And I expressed to him and made clear I'm not his attorney. I do not represent him. I represent the township, who may have adversarial interest to him. But that if he does choose to speak of information that is contained in his personnel file, that would then open the door for the board to have conversation regarding that. It sounds like Mr. Duth has done that. And so the board would then be able to speak about, let's just keep it to, for now, the set of emails that were the emails in question. There are certain things in a personnel file, i.e. medical records and stuff, that I would not say are, the door has been opened to. But correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Duth, but it sounds like that set of emails that is in question, you're okay speaking about.
That's correct. Yeah, just the emails, the current ones. Yes.
Okay, so I would advise the board that you're okay to speak about that list of emails that's in question in the personnel file.
Okay, thanks. Supervisor Ledke, you were next.
Yeah, I would, thank you, Paul. And again, thank you for
Mhm.
what you've done. We've had those conversations.
Appreciate that.
The topic of the budget. And I will say this on Paul's behalf, that probably has put in some stress on the recycling department in terms of budget cuts and what that means. And that's a board direction. That's not an Andy direction. And those are the discussions around that, and discussions have been how to get creative. We are doing great things back there, and Paul has been a major catalyst of that. That reuse building, that again, has been a board direction that nothing happens unless it's grant money. Unfortunately, that took 3 years of grant money. That was brought up in public comment last week, or at the last meeting. And I think that's where some of that training and education comes in for all to understand how many government nuances did we just learn about in this meeting? Who knew this stuff? This is where we've got to be to getting better. And this is part of the struggle just to get an attorney in here. How many years did we fight for that? We're all getting better. We all need to exercise patience in getting to that milestone. Things are going to improve.
Thank you. Supervisor Cole, do you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Paul for coming in. I mean, it is super hard to come do this
Mhm.
in front of people, in front of supervisors, recorded. But I think that this is super helpful for having us be able to discuss what the heck is going on. And so I appreciate you coming in. I think that Paul has a really good point with his job description, which is he's in charge of the day-to-day. And so I'd like to hear, practically speaking, like where are your toes getting stepped on, Paul?
Good question. I think basically what Supervisor Ludsky and I, a lot of our conflict has been is when if I am punched in, and it's been a huge source of conflict actually, if I'm punched in and I'm back there and I am directing volunteers, the public, a trainee, as in like the recycling assistant, and or even maybe a supervisor or somebody that's also there helping out. It is challenging to talk about township issues in that mindset. I am naturally a promoter. I am constantly training. I am watching safety. I am, my head is on a swivel. And I feel that when Supervisor Lucky would come by and want to talk to me about something that wasn't right in front of me, it was a huge source of stress and conflict for me. So those were challenging. Those are the most challenging moments. And then also sometimes it's very challenging to get to these meetings because we do work back there till 5:15, and it usually is a 9.5 hour day, half hour day. But sometimes at these meetings, things are decided on recycling center that might not have been, I felt they didn't have the most information to make that kind of decision. And to go around somebody who is in charge of the day-to-day operations, who's been doing this for 6.5 years, is also very challenging. To not include them doesn't mean I'm right, but at least ask me, how can we manage, the trash bin out front, or how many hours a week do we need the recycling assistant? How do you manage it? Do they work the whole 30 hours, or if it's slow, do you send them? Which I don't know why, as so to speak, just the recycling coordinator, I would be in charge of that, but that was something that was put onto me, and fine. I try to be as responsible with spending or not spending money needlessly back there. Everyone in this room right here, all my supporters, they all know that I will climb in a dumpster to save $5 for this township. I really will do that. But I also tried to come up with ways to mitigate thousands of dollars in expenses with some of the programs and some of the procedures and systems we do back there. So, I mean, I have done a lot with little or no supervision, and then to have a hands-on supervisor come in, it'd be challenging for them, especially without clear direction from the board, and also without changing my job description and or them showing me theirs of what they're here to do. In some of my in the emails, or even just in general notes and stuff, it's like there would be notes like, what does Andy want from me? And it's just like, we just don't meld well. We don't. I will try to do all I can to work with Andy, and we found some common ground often. But without clear direction, without this, which I'm looking forward to, either for the next employee or for if I'm still here, supervisor's code of conduct. Not to point out what they did wrong, but what they kind of have a guide for. I asked for that probably within the first year of working here. Abdo is now available for HR for employees. Attorney available for employee supervisor issues. I did notice that when I went through the handbook that if there is an issue, an employee has an issue with a supervisor, they're actually directed to go to the township attorney. I didn't know that. Mr. Sam and I, as an HR rep, would have had a lot fewer emails if I had known that, and we probably wouldn't even be here today. I would have had everything else have been a little bit clearer. And then supervisor roles, expectations, limits, just that they, what are you here to do? Do you just take information? Paul would like, a new tool. Do you just bring that to the board, or do you and him decide exactly what the tool is, and you have to make an argument with the supervisor and decide if you're going to get this tool or not. So I just think when some of those are actually in place, it'd be easier for all the other township employees, but anybody that does work back there. It's a train. That thing is moving back there, and issues come up constantly. We've had some big issues and little issues, and you actually need somebody back there. Coordinator is not what I would actually call this person. This person's a manager. I even went back through a lot of we used to do our daily timesheets, and I actually written in just some things that are just highlights of what I've actually done back there in the moment, because it needed to be done now. Again, a lot of supervisors were hands off, and I'm back there. I'm expected to do what I can as the best I can, and use the sources around me. And this is a manager position. That's what this is. That's what I am, and that's why this program has done as well as it's done, is my opinion. Because I came in and on my application, it says, I asked very clearly, I said, what do you all want from me? And two supervisors shared with me that they would like me to grow it. And that's the words I have. And that's my last direction from this board, to tell you the truth, was to grow that program. I was actually shared with me at one point to not share that with the new boards. They're kind of sick of me hearing how much I am growing it, and that it's going to be even more of an animal someday when I do leave, that they're not aware of what is actually happening back there at all times. I don't hide anything from anybody. I've invited all supervisors to come back. Supervisors come back, and I will share as much as they want to hear. I've done tours with Anoka County, with Ramsey County. City of St. Paul was just here, MPCA was just here. I share everything with anyone if they ask me. So that's what I do. That's what I've interpreted this. This is from 2021, my job description. That's what I've interpreted as, and that's what I've been working under. So I don't know. That's a long answer, but just trying to give you my side of it, and where this has been, the source of, conflict between Supervisor Ludke and I. So I think that's what generated a lot of these emails.
All right, Supervisor Cole.
So there is a lot. To go back to one specific thing you said, and this is probably one of many things that we're going to need to solve if we want to keep you. But just to start somewhere, you mentioned it's difficult to deal with just general township business when you're back in the recycling center. And I imagine that would include stuff like budget.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's also very difficult, I can imagine, to work at the recycling center all day and then come make these board meetings, which can run till 8 or 9 p.m. So if you were going to come back, how do you envision your communication with the board? What would be the best way to facilitate that?
Well, what I've been trying to do, and it was the timing of it wasn't correct, because it looked like I was going around the supervisors for recycling, that I started including the town board in a lot of my communications, because I did feel like I was backed up against the wall and I wasn't being supported or helped by the information I was getting. I didn't know where else to turn, but I also think that weekly reports of what is actually happening back there, I don't think it has to be in the form of a meeting, because it also takes me away from what I do back there. So just to do weekly reports with including the town board of what I've been working on, what I'm working on, and where I'm going. I do monthly ones that I don't feel are, I don't know if they're read or even looked at, or a recycling check-in, but I would do a weekly check-in. And I was something I was going to start at the beginning of the year, but we were just focused on other things with the new reuse building and issues. But with budgeting, no, I'm open. I have time. I have administrative time on Wednesdays and Fridays. I can do budgeting. When I worked with Miss Alyssa, we worked just fine. These last budgets, we went around 2 times, and we slashed all kinds of stuff, took all kinds of lines out of there. And, I believe we worked with, Andy and Mr. John there, on, going over budgets and stuff. So no, there's room for that. I can do that. It's just, if I have clear information, I can do better with that. There was a couple of times where I just had comments like, well, we're gonna need 30,000, or we're gonna need 10% from every department. And it's just like, what do you need from me though? And then how are we gonna get there? So something a little clearer direction like that would have been appreciated. Wherever I've worked, I've gone into places that were having challenges, and that's what I did. If they asked for numbers, I got them their numbers. That's what I can do. Sometimes I have gone ahead. There is areas back there where some monies can be diverted and can be, I can mitigate some of the expenses for the township. And I will go after those because I have that's just a natural ability I have, is to try to make as much profit for a facility, which I know we're not profitable, but I can at least reduce the cost to the town people and to the general fund. Communication with the town board, that's what I would do. I would offer up that each week I would, if somebody has asked me something through the week, I'd make sure I'd answered it, and or that I would just offer up what I think you all would appreciate hearing.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Milburn?
The door is open, right? Okay, Supervisor Cole is saying that there's no hard evidence. The 12th of March, Paul sent an email to John with a subject, psychological unsafe work environment. He reported his concerns to the supervisor and to the board chair. 10/24, Paul sent an email to Sam on an HR issue. He made a formal complaint regarding a hostile, stressful, and psychological unsafe work environment. He requested a meeting with Supervisor Cole and Supervisor Hendrickson. 10/15, Sam responded to Paul reaching out. He says, unless there's something truly extraordinary with Lisa and Andy, I'm likely to not push hard against it. 10/18, Paul emails Sam, continual explaining the fear of retaliation. Paul explains that previous employees have quit after being targeted by Supervisor Ludke, and that Paul was going to try to hang on till Abdo. Paul responded, or Sam responded, said, I cannot talk this week, maybe a phone call. There was no response. 10/31, Paul emails Sam following up on an HR issue. Again, hostile work environment. 11/1, Paul emailed Sam and John with an HR issue saying Supervisor Ludke had targeted him and created a hostile work environment again. That's 9 times in 1 year and nobody cared. Again, if we don't care about our employees, you're never going to keep them.
So real quick, you just said something that was
Well, I
inaccurate.
asked.
No.
Well, this is
What-
right from
when
the
you, when you
email.
say that nobody cared,
Okay,
you don't know how I responded to
Okay.
Paul.
okay, but I talked to
You
Paul
know-
and I do know the response. So, okay,
And-
you
And
can
you
talk.
took subsets of what was in there, not
Okay.
entire phrases or things. So just so, I mean, context means a lot,
Yep,
and you pick and choose what you say and it can have a different meaning. And so, but my dealings with Paul, you did not portray that accurately when you made that statement. Now, I can't say for the rest of the supervisors, but I took exception to that.
Okay.
Supervisor Cole.
Yeah, I think that was misconstrued. My emails, if read in full, I stand behind completely. I reviewed these emails, Paul. I think that my emails to you.
Yep.
I tried my best to make myself available to you whenever possible. And when I said that there's no evidence or of issues, I'm talking about specifics. So I agree, there was complaints about unsafe psychological work environment. And when I would probe for details and try to set up a meeting in the emails, the specifics were not what I would say would move me to action. And that's what I was trying to communicate to Paul very clearly. It was like, based on what you've told me so far, I haven't heard anything extraordinary that would warrant removing Andy, but I'm open to talking to you further. We've talked on the phone a few times and we never really got to that point of any kind of like significant issue. I'm not saying that there's not, I'm just saying I haven't heard any. And so I do take exception to the way that those emails were read. Again, like if they were complete, and it's up to Paul, if they were completely released, I would stand behind everything I said in those emails. And I think I was doing my very best to be helpful to you, Paul.
Yeah, no, and I felt that, and I had put in some of the language in there too, that I felt that, and at least in one of the responses, that your response was fair. And that I was just still searching for another route, another path. Again, Abdo was not online yet. That was week after week after week, and there was just too much happening also parallel to everything I was sending you, that I literally back there, just, grabbing, for a life preserver of some kind. So yeah, as you could see on some of those emails, I mean, you can hear it. The desperation of, coming in at 7:01 on a Saturday morning, needing to blast off an email so I can just get through the rest of this shift and try to finish out my week. The challenges of that, and not having Abdo and something clear to bring to the town board about, well, this is what you all are saying is their position, and where is my help? How are you going to help me? So again, I didn't have the tools of the attorney. I didn't have the tools of Abdo. So I generally think this would have been not handled differently, as in like differently better, but just a different path, and that we wouldn't be where we are today. So.
And then another thing
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, Supervisor Cole.
Another thing I was trying to be upfront about as well is like, I'm not an HR expert.
Right.
And I was telling you, I was like, Abdo's coming. I can try my best if you want to talk about it now.
Mhm.
And Abdo just didn't really happen fast enough, unfortunately.
No, we're already months into this issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had put that in there. Abdo was too little, too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supervisor Licky.
Just to speak to that exactly, those are words that whatever might come of them and however they get spun, we know where you stand with me, Bob, and how you're gonna come at this. I've been on the receiving end of this before. In what and where we're at here, the accommodations have been made. The email was sent. Paul, you picked the time when we meet with staff, because there's a collaborative element to this whole thing, correct? For doing the score report.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
No, I'm sorry, I don't. I'm not
so,
following.
Staff up here enters the score report. They need
Yes.
your input. They need collaboration from you.
Okay.
Supervisor Hendrickson had stuff. I've got stuff with the new building, and it was put out to you when we can meet and discuss on this. Time and place of your choosing.
Okay.
Because that's
No, I'm listening.
that's how it happened though, right?
Okay.
You picked Wednesdays at 1 o'clock?
no.
Okay. I just want to make it clear that we made accommodations to
Okay.
not do it during whatever
Oh, I
hours
see.
are being impactful. That you said
Yes.
you were being impactful by hours, and we allowed you to choose the time and place.
Yes, I had the choice of either Wednesday or Friday. Yes, I'm following you now. I'm
Which are
sorry.
days that the recycling center is not open to the public.
Yes, that's true.
The attorney was an option laid out long ago by Supervisor Olson as an option for communicating something. Is that true?
That is true.
So I just want to make sure the stuff coming up forth and saying this has never happened. The employee have been paramount in my dealings with them. And I took no less than 12 calls today dealing with different activities and what is going on with this town. So to sit here and say that I'm not doing this, I can tell you, and I'm not going to speak for Paul, but we had some deep conversations about this, but you've been truly affected by this and thinking this. So now I am the liaison of this board whose direction was cut your budgets departments. That was a direction made by this board. Is that true?
Correct.
So how does that employee get that information? I'm asking.
By their
Who-
supervisors.
Okay. And then from there, it's got to be done. And we got to work towards it. And the words you used was defend. How do I defend this? How do I defend this? We don't need to defend it. Program is there. It exists. It will exist. It's going to grow. You're doing a great job. At no point did I say it's because of you. It's, we got to come up with the numbers to make it work, to get the support of what a budget cut is going to look like. And unfortunately, that direction's coming from the people. And then they came up at the annual meeting. Again, people need to understand the impact of these dollars and what and where they're at. Cutting a budget, it does just that. It doesn't cut what you want in your mind. And you're going to have every department thinking they're the top, but that's why it was across the board. And that was very impactful to a lot of the conversations. So I mean, shoot the messenger, that was me. But none of it was, I didn't make a unilateral thing saying we're cutting anything. It's still all on the table as it should sit here right now. Nothing has been decided with that budget. So I would be open to conversations. And that's what, you know, we're trying to get to. And that's how things do move forward. And the conversations have just not been there. So to me, to sit down with, you know, the plan that we've got with Supervisor Olson's worksheets, you know, if you were to sit with him and I tomorrow and maybe the clerk on the other stuff, we work through some of that stuff. I would love to find a solution. Would love to have you back there.
What is the solution to what? I'm sorry, I'm missing this. I really am. What is this? About the budget?
No, to you be in recycling.
Okay, about me coming back
Yeah.
or staying. I guess the position's still open. Well, I think one of the challenges is, I mean, and you just brought up budget, is that I'm actually more of a proactive manager. And I think that's where some of our conflict is. And I'm not saying what kind of manager you are, but that I proactively, I am always looking at cutting expenses and also seeing where we can generate some revenue and or mitigate expenses. And that is what I have put everything, all my energies towards, and that's how I've trained my recycling assistants and the volunteers, you know, the ones that are willing. And to, I understand that there's budgets and there has to be budgets cuts, but I didn't feel that I was being supported in those decisions because I didn't think that the monies that I was bringing in to go up against the expense of the recycling center, that it was being either not really appreciated, but supported. So by all these distractions and all these, and to have meetings and to have conversations that don't generate income, we'll just use that. I just felt was counterproductive. And that's why even in my that I had put that it was counterproductive for you and I working together because of I feel like you're more interested in cutting a budget and or trying to find places to reduce what the recycling center can do, where I'm trying to find ways to actually generate more income to offset the expense of this program to the township. So I think that has been our biggest conflict. The two different management styles, and like had Supervisor Cole had said that you and I had different visions for the future. So,
And just to clarify, is you pointed to Andy about cutting budget. That was, just to reiterate, that was a direction that the board set.
sure, okay.
It wasn't Andy's decision to cut 10% or look for that. So
Right.
just to be fair to everybody.
Right. Well, as somebody that's back there as a manager or a coordinator or in charge of a program, I still don't have a number. I generally don't know what you all wanted from me. I have ways to generate income back there and to help reduce expenses. And if I knew what this number was, I would have been working on this all year. Or since you all decide what this number is, then I'll go after it. I will attack it. If you want 10%, but if you can throw a number at that, if you tell me that's $32,000, I will find you that money. I can do that. But I need it. I need to know what that number is. And I need the freedom to do what I do. And I don't feel that I have that. For 4.5 years, I that there is a lot back there because of my management and my management style and with the people that supported me, especially the ones in this room. A lot has happened back there. There's mass improvements back there. There's even a 200-something-thousand building sitting back there because of my work and my relationship with Anoka County, and they've seen what I did and what I've done. And again, it isn't just me. I'm using I a lot. It's everyone behind me. It's all of us and the board too, to allow this to, to accept these grants. But I'm good at what I do, and if Bob, when he was my supervisor, left me alone. If I needed something, I checked in with him and we made it happen. We found a common ground. Mr. John, when you were working with me as a supervisor, that's probably when the program grew the most, especially with getting the grants and breaking ground back there and getting that building built to 80%, as fast as you did and all the work you did and whatever I could do to support it. So maybe I'm not a good fit for where this program and this township is going. But if you don't want 11 or 7 or 15 calls a day, you need to actually hire more people like me. It would be my opinion. Your Billy's, she's going to be a very good independent employee and is becoming one. And that's who I would, that's where I would take this if this was my company. Take the supervisors out of it more. If it's a major decision, like, I don't know, getting the front end of a pickup truck fixed that's 30 years old, I understand that. But also, if there's a hole in a tractor tire, I'm going to fix it. I've fixed 7 of them without permission. Whether that's something I should be doing or not, but it's not going on the road. I know how to plug a tire as well as any gas station, saving what, $200, and we lose the tractor for weeks. So those are the day-to-day operations that I've just chosen to take upon myself. Plus, that I just, at some point, I must have felt that it was expected of me, because again, I don't have any new or different direction compared to this job description or to grow it. So that's what I've been doing.
Supervisor Cole.
What I'm hearing from Paul is like, as a board, we are completely failing staff and communicating our expectations to them. We all agree, I believe we all agree, that this delegation business is a mess. It's a necessary evil that we are trying to get rid of. And I think, Paul, if you were to stay, you'd be very instrumental in helping us get out of this mess, because it's obviously affecting you the worst. And you could help us troubleshoot how can the board work with an employee as a whole, which there's going to be a million problems with that. But if we were to go in that direction, there's still a standing problem, which is Supervisor Luck. He knows quite a bit about recycling. He's worked quite a bit in recycling over the last summer. Same with Lisa. He's going to have input and he's going to need to be back there and probably talk to you. Is that going to be possible going forward?
Yeah, challenging. How do we do this and how do I word it? And I understand that it's a small campus here. What I have asked Supervisor Ludke a couple of times, because again, in our handbook, that if we have an issue with somebody, we are asked to have a firm but a fair conversation with them. And I have asked him very clearly to not bring up township issues on Saturday when I'm punched in, because I am in manager mode and I am responsible for everybody on that property. Whether he feels that he is or not, that's up to him. But I know that I am, because I have been. So safety, trucks moving, people throwing stuff in dumpsters, people throwing stuff incorrectly in dumpsters, potential fines. There is a lot of moving parts back there, and to be taken out of that mindset and then to be, I feel purposely, frustrated, because I feel that he has had this knowledge that this does upset me, and it will upset me for the entire weekend until I'm back on Tuesday. I feel that we've had very clear conversations on that, and he chose not to honor that, and that was very challenging. It was one of the last straws, and I was like, well, what am I even doing here? I mean, if I'm starting to feel like he is just trying to do a total takeover of that area, that's what I feel, then that it gets challenging, more and more challenging, and it also takes me out of trying to improve that area and bring more and more of my talents to this program of reducing expenses and generating money through that program to offset the expense. I know our goal is to be zero. We're doing an excellent job. I mean, let me just go off on the side just for one minute. If I could have some latitude here, I appreciate it. When the budget's put together, it's my understanding that we go to the public and say, hey, we need this. We need 2,050,000. I'm pointing at Tony. So we need 2,050,000. Okay. And we need, 400,000 for the fire department. We need 300,000 for police. I'm paraphrasing. I don't have numbers in front of me, 120 for road and bridge. And then we need 120 for the recycling center. And then the public goes, well, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So then they sign off. Okay, so it says recycling center, says 120,000 working budget. Well, we don't cost 120,000. This is what I'm always having a challenge with this. And I've worked with 3 treasurers now, and I don't seem to be explain this to me. So we have a budget for 120,000. The township signed off on that, and they said, hey, that's a nice program. We like what Paul does back there. We like the brush, and we like keeping all the TVs out of the ditches. And so they're like, okay, we'll give you the 120,000. But then what they don't understand is that a lot of the public doesn't get is that we get something called a SCORE grant, and this SCORE grant is worth $55,000 or $56,000 a year that we're reimbursed for the expenses. We get that the next year. So then now what are we down to? Maybe we're down to 60-something thousand. Well, then we do charge fees for people to bring in TV sets and everything and mattresses. We all know that. We're lower than any place around. And that's by choice, and that's by negotiations that I work with vendors to keep that low for the public. And there's 30,000 right there. So now we're down to maybe 30,000 in expenses. And then there's the reuse center. The year that I went after that reuse center hard, as in I made sure everything, Miss Julia was there. I made sure everything was clean, organized, that people would want to give us an at-will donation, no prices, no forced sales. We generated $21,000 in at-will donations. That is found money. That was never back there before until that program was put in place. So what I'm trying to say is that last year at the end, somehow we cost out of general fund, we cost this township $20,000. Well, I think that should have been celebrated a little bit better than what it was, or at least noted. Because that to me seems like, as a resident, my tax bill says Linwood Township, I don't know, $1,200 or something. So I mean, I'm paying taxes here too. But to me, if somebody says, hey, a year ago we gave Paul 120,000, but he just handed us 100,000 back. That really, and maybe my math is incorrect and I'm looking at it incorrectly, but that's what I've been working under for 6.5 years. So that's different than somebody genuinely would need to explain that to me, because as the person collecting the monies and setting the prices back there and negotiating and putting energy and time and effort into, mitigating expenses, I would need to know that. If that isn't the correct way that this is actually, going, I guess, so that's been my challenge. It's like, yes, I get paid a salary to do that, but also I'm also doing all I can to keep those expenses down for the residents of Linwood Township, and to put those monies back in the general fund, or to not draw from them and then keep them or spend them. So this has been something I've been fighting for years. Yeah.
So Paul, there's been a lot of discussion
Thank you.
about budgets. And what do you see your role as being in terms of budgets? Because it is part of your job description.
My role, well, the former treasurer and I, we had a great working relationship. We went line by line. We did not, and I don't know if that was a flaw or a mistake, but we did not leave any fat in that last budget from the recycling. We cut that thing down to the bone that I felt that we could actually do as long as nothing big comes up. And then to have the public actually go and reduce it even a little bit more, it's like, from where? You know, that's the thing. I mean, we don't actually have a uniform budget. I mean, our jackets have been donated by the public and by other companies. My clothing, I mean, you know, we have a boot budget. I mean, it's just like, we run extremely lean back there. And if anybody would, you know, wants to, I think we could actually have a course, just recycling 101 someday. You're asking me a question and it's like, well, yeah, I think public education on what the recycling center does, because we do generate so much income, but we also have a lot going out, and it's like, who manages that and what percentages? And so going forward with the budgets, yeah, working with the new treasurer, we've done a couple of things together. We've got the SCORE grant in already, you know, for the half year. So we're learning. We're trying to find things in the computer. So it'd be a rebuilding process. That, and then with the boards, you know, input. But honestly, I think there's no other easier way for me to sum it up. Because I worked for companies, I worked for corporations, and they said, we need, you know, a food cost of 27%, labor costs of 23.3. If you guys genuinely get, honestly, if I can't do it, then it can't be done, is what I'm going to say. But if you all give me a number and tell me what you need and when you need it by, I can do that. And I have shared that honestly with both recycling supervisors, that just give me a number. Coming back and telling me that, you know, we need to cut 10%, we need 30,000, we need, you know, this number. It's like, that is so empty to me, especially when I'm standing there sorting copper wire. So we can get some monies from that tub and a little bit more than this tub, because you do, if you split it out compared to dirty to clean, then, you know, just again, all I can sum it up is just tell me what you need. I'll get it for you. But as long as it's fair across the board between all departments. But we slashed, Alyssa and I, we went twice by ourselves before we went to the board, and we slashed that thing down to nothing. And there's no extra room in the recycling, is my opinion. You could get rid of the director, you know, the township coordinator. Sure, you could do that, the recycling coordinator, sorry. But you know, I did some real simple math on that, and you know, you hire two guys at $20 an hour, 20, 30 hours a week, high turnover, not somebody that's completely responsible for what's actually happening and not happening back there. And you're probably right back to where my salary and wage is, and you don't have somebody with ongoing vision and direction and communication and ability to work with offices and a new office and new employees. Miss Billy and I, we have I feel have a great relationship already started, and we both are on the same page. So I use the tools around me. It has been called hand holding, and I don't think that's appreciated. And also that people shouldn't carry other people's water. And it's like, no, I'm working with a team. We're building a team. I don't have a lot of strengths, requests for actions. Never heard of it before. Just was not something that we had in Minneapolis, and it was asked from me from other companies. So to have that just be thrown at me like it's something I should know how to do was another source of conflict. So little miscommunication there, but Miss Billy helped me out the best she could with what I feel that she was comfortable in helping a coworker out without direction. But we're working on becoming a better team overall, and with new employees. I've shared what I can. Some of the companies I worked with, we had something called sharing the secret. If there was anything that I felt that the office needed to know, or any of the new supervisors coming in, I've always shared it. So did I answer your question in there somewhere? Sorry.
Yeah.
What I can do with budgeting, yeah.
I think with the budgeting, what I got out of that was that you'd work with the treasurer, providing the numbers that you had, and yeah, no. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I'm just wondering, so about the main times that budget was cut or talked to during working hours with me, you usually brought it up.
Okay.
I tried not to do all that. And then we usually ended it that we'll agree to disagree.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, did the same happen with Andy?
You're
When-
asking
when you-
Andy or asking me? I'm sorry.
I am
Or
asking
general.
you.
Yeah, it's possible. I do understand that. I know it's not just a one-way street. So what's real challenging for an employee back in that area, because both Lisa and Andy are both volunteers and they have helped out, and I've appreciated that, and I've made sure that they more than heard that I thank them. I hope they felt that. But then I don't know when they're the supervisor. So that is really challenging to an employee that is expected to direct and manage a program that's moving right now. And then now I have a supervisor / volunteer that I don't know exactly where we're at with where we're at in that conversation. How are you coming at me right now? Are you just, and then is it okay that you're directing another employee or a volunteer is like, this is what I need right now, or hey, go grab that and put it over here. It's like, well, now which is it? Are you a volunteer or supervisor? So that would be, if that was defined, that would help out a lot, and has been a source of conflict also, because it can be very confusing.
Yeah, I think your job description, when we talked about job description, you've pointed out a couple things in there, but clearly we've talked about it. Our job descriptions need to be updated. I think there's things that are put into some of the job descriptions, specifically yours. Budget, when I read it, I have a different expectation than what you described. And it's not your fault. I think that there just needs to be more clarity in the job descriptions. I think part of that is, even when it talks about kind of managerial or the day-to-day tasks, I think that's confusing too. I've spent some time with the attorneys talking to them about quite a bit of this stuff. And, one thing that's kind of been pushed really hard is that this board hasn't necessarily together as a group managed the township proactively like it probably should have. This is part of our growing pains right now too as a board, is to take more of a proactive managerial role, because as I understood what was explained to me is the board as a whole is the manager of the township and the decision maker as five minds. And I would love to find, you and I worked really well together, Paul, and to be honest with you, I'd hate to see you leave. I was really shocked when I got your resignation, because I thought it was probably premature because we are in evolution right now, but I got where you were coming from. In the discussions that I've had with you, my fear is that, because these two are representing the board, and the board's trying to get into more of a managerial role. And I think that's where some of the conflict comes in, is what is the board managing versus what are employees? Are they managers? Aren't they? And I think that's part of the conflict that we have. And it just happens to be probably, I'm guessing, because I've not been part of the meetings, Andy might be more vocal about it, and maybe Lisa's more passive, and that's why that's taken more of a lean one, against one supervisor for another, whatever. But I think that role of who the decision makers are and how that gets communicated is where we're at as far as trying to get that resolved. I would love, and I know Supervisor Ledke had said it too, I would love to find some common ground that we can work on to keep you around, without making moves of supervisors. And I don't know how that gets done, but that's what I would like to find out, if we can get there. If you leave, if your decision is to leave tomorrow, obviously we're never going to be able to see that through. But part of it, I think, is just, how those day-to-day decisions are being made, who's making them, who has the authority, and what the roles are. But I think that the managerial definition of who makes the calls is where most of the conflict is. Supervisor Ledke?
That's exactly where I've been, and I've shared that, you know, and I know the passion that comes from that, and that is great for what you've done with the center. I've shared that with you. And that there's the conversations we've had the other way too, where something gets said at this meeting and we think there's gonna be bulldozers and padlocks in front of the recycling center, and it's like, nope, it's just a comment. And that comes up, and that came up when Supervisor Milburn brought up the Washington County Center. And you got a whole page in your book there about the pros over Linwood over that. And that's the truth. And we have to talk through and down that stuff. To me, that's where I've been since it didn't resonate well with me. I would love to sit down tomorrow with you, Supervisor Olson, if you're agreeable, the clerk, and we lay out that groundwork tomorrow if you're available.
And then what would the groundwork be? What is the question? What are we gonna work on? What is the,
A discussion around the role and around, I mean,
Around
budgeting
roles.
has come up a lot too. You've shared that.
Sure.
You know a P&L.
yep,
P&L, and we've had the discussion of how to translate that to township language.
yeah,
And then we can work through that to where that comes from. The
okay,
number, if I'll, the 10% number, I'll do the math of the budget and give you the 10% of that. And then we have that discussion of what and where we gotta be with the program and hear your vision out. And then we can move forward to help get to where we are trying to go. You've heard the conversation with the attorney. We are looking, the board is actively moving in a direction in which we need to have that, but it does, like you say, need to be a two-way street. So we need you at the table having those conversations. That new building is going to be huge, and I very much want you to be a part of that.
yeah, I appreciate that. I generally feel that you all need that. Miss Julia has been here volunteering and Miss Lisa, and we have some other new ones that are doing that. I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to think if this is actually going to solve what the issues are and the challenges are back there, and I just don't think so. You know, Andy, you and I, we just don't work well together. So I think in the interest of the recycling center, going forward, and then with all these new other areas that we're all working on with the employee handbook and everything else, that I'll have those tools possibly in the future, that I don't see me being able to stay here with the stress that is generally caused with our history. So I wouldn't be able to stay under those conditions, just to be honest with you. I don't want to waste anybody's time here, and it's getting late. I know that. And
So
thank you, everybody, for your time. What's that?
I would just say the conditions might not be, that's where I'm saying to go into stuff, is not go into it, looking at it one way. There's options and avenues of which things can happen in a conversation. And you just need to be open to having them.
Yeah, now I hear what you're saying. I feel that I have done that. I have been asked by other supervisors to do my best to find a way to get over this and to wait for some changes coming. And I've given that an awful lot of time and an awful lot of mental stress and anguish. And for my own, for my own self-care, I just don't feel that you and I can work together well. And I think that has an impact on that program. And I have also shared that with, I believe, probably Supervisor Olson and Supervisor Bob, that when I become the issue back there, then I would even pull myself, because I'm responsible for what Mr. Ed handed me. And when I become the problem, then I need to be the one to leave. So I don't want to leave. I'm not saying that, but I'm sorry. It's that clear. I don't know what more I can put in here, and I'm sorry for some of the harsh language, but this is generally, I would write this exactly the same way today. I just cannot work with Supervisor Lucky. There is just no other way to say it. For for my own self and then also for that recycling center being run the way it should be run and to improve and to grow. So, and that's just not me. That's also the public. I've had a lot of outreach. I have lots of emails. I've had people stop by my house and they know what will happen if I'm not there. So a lot of concern from the public.
So you say some things that I get worried about because you keep saying, you make it sound to me, and I'm just, I have to say this. You make it sound like you are the recycling center and not the recycling center is the recycling center. Just in the last couple of comments you made.
Sure.
If I'm not there, it's not going to ever be the same. And it's like, you are instrumental, Paul, and I would never diminish what you've put into that program. You and I know each other very well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the mindset that creates conflict.
I'm sure it has part of it, but it's what I've had to, that's the mindset I've had to have to protect that, and I'll use that word, to protect that recycling center from some supervisors that have come in and have tried to change that without any knowledge on what they were even doing. And this has been a history of what I've gone up against and others before me too, that it's been challenging. It's different than any other. It's like the fire department. They're on an island and they're different than any other program here, is my opinion. That is an actual business back there. And you need a manager and you need a support team, a town board, or owners, or, you know, a company supporting you and backing you up. So yeah, I'm defensive back there. I get that. Anybody that I don't know, I don't understand the part where I really feel that if anybody has worked with me, we always find a common ground. It's never always like Paul's way or the highway or anything. Miss Lisa and I, just in the past, I would even say recent, the past month, we're starting to find our way. We had some, not conflict, but we had to find our footing. And I feel that we're getting along just fine, and I think we'll grow towards that. But as in my recycling center, or the recycling center, yeah, that was Mr. Ed's recycling center. Him and Mr. Hank and Mr. Mike, they created that program back there. And then after working a year with them, that was handed to me, and I take it seriously, and I will defend it. And I won't let it be affected by residents who signed up and became supervisors that are not willing to either work with me or they want to take it a different direction than what the public wants it to be. I've only helped, the public has shaped that, and I've only molded it to what works for them. So I don't know. I feel like I'm defending what I've been doing, but it's challenging that you'll have an entity like MPCA or Anoka County, and I know I go back to them, but these people have a lot to do. They don't need to bring a director from St. Paul here for a tour if it's not something that's special. And what we've all created with the volunteers and with you all allowing me to be here to structure this program and create it and mold it and improve it, you know, that has value to them. Some of the things that Little Linwood is what we referred to has some of the language in MPCA grants and loans have changed because of us, and grants have gone from 400,000 down to 50,000. So somebody like us, we could achieve and possibly get a $50,000 grant. So we've had larger impact than just, you know, the cul-de-sacs are cleaner. There's fewer mattresses in the ditches, you know, there's a place to bring leaves, you know, so we've had some really big impacts back there. I know I go off on this because I'm always selling that recycling center, but I don't know, to me, it's a program that should be celebrated and also supported a lot better than it has been by the town board as a whole and the town board individual supervisors. I was shared with me that there was even a supervisor here in the last round that said that she hated me hated the recycling program and we shouldn't actually have one, and fought against everything that, we were working towards back there. And it's like, that's really hard to come here and empty 100-pound organic barrels with, I won't say it because maybe somebody's at home eating, but they look like crime scenes. I mean, we came here and we worked really hard on doing what we can, in certain areas. So I'm going off to the side, and you guys know me, and I can do this for hours. So, but just, we're back there, and I understand what you're saying, John. Yeah, I am protective and defensive. I do get that. But also, if I need to work with somebody like in the office or in another program of Public Works or something, I can do that. I've done that. I can get it done. And then just earlier you did say that Supervisor Ludke and Supervisor Hendrickson, that, they're back there making decisions that, it's the unilateral decisions, it's decisions made, and then now they become law. And then I'm expected to change what we've been doing and what would work without much background or conversation. But direction from the board, I'm fine with that. I have no issue with that. If you all 3 or out of 5 of you say, hey, Paul, we're going to now put this on the left instead of on the right, I'd be like, okay, and at least maybe you've asked me about it, or I could show you why it made more sense to put it on the right. But you guys ultimately, I get it. You guys run it. You run the township. You run the recycling center, the employees. I get that. But it's when the individuals come back, and then now all of a sudden they're telling me what we're going to do, and then without town board approval, that's really challenging, because I thought that's how this worked. I thought it was 5. I thought it was a decision for 5 people to make and not 1.
Yeah. 2 quick things real quick, and then I think Bob's getting close to his bedtime here. There was some talk about budget cuts and stuff like that. And I just wanted to make sure that everything is crystal clear here. Your position was never part of a budget cut. It was never even a discussion point. So just so you know, that your position has nothing to do with budget cuts. That's programming only. So I think that we've talked about it before, but I just want to make sure that was crystal clear.
I appreciate that, but it was, I felt that I was targeted, and that my wage, well, it's probably public, but my dollar amount was going to be a very easy fix for anything that you all wanted to do with the budget back there. It's like, just eliminate him. We'll just go to part-time. We'll close it on Tuesdays. And we'll just, hire 2 part-time guys. That's what has been floated out there. And that's what has come all the way around from the public back to me, from something that, and there's rumors in this town, but something that somebody had heard from somebody. And it's like, well, how does that motivate you to come to work and do the best job you can, and, pull $10 out of that dumpster and, put it in the correct dumpster,
Like I said, it's a matter of record. This board has never talked about eliminating positions for budget reasons. So Supervisor Ludke?
Yeah, to me, that's where it keeps coming back to, that is thinking that it's going away. It's not. I wouldn't be dedicating the hours and hours on that new building to get it open. And I know that's been a sense of frustration, because that was a learning curve for this town as well, because historically this town has just done what it wanted. And we have to build a building to code. We have to have permits. We have to do the things we impose on others, on ourselves. So I know that's come up in discussion. Budgeting, that was that. You were at that meeting. We had the discussion on the 23rd of September, was the recycling budget talk. And like I said, I know going into it, our conversations prior, you had the opinion, in my opinion, that recycling was going to be the save all for the budget. We'll just get rid of recycling and we won't have an issue for the budget cut that was imposed. Never the case. It's 10% across every department. And that has been the discussion that we've had. And I know the challenge has been around maybe some of the language in terms of, what you were used to in previous jobs, because P&L came up a lot, and we worked through it, and we actually wrote on the sheet, disbursement is the L, revenue is the profit, we can work through that stuff. And I think to that point, that's where I keep coming back to, have the conversations, and we can't stonewall those approaches to what and where we're gonna be able to grow that, because that Saturday was an awesome day back there. Wish you would have been there. As you know, Julie and the team was getting the new building up and going. We're tracking for the 6th of December to have a grand opening, when we have the craft fair, when we have Breakfast with Santa. It's gonna be good stuff. So like I said, I'd really like to sit down and have a conversation and understand the actual impacts of what that means, because to just say that you're agreeable to talking and working and then saying you're not really makes it a challenge for me to understand where the impasses are.
Yeah, well, I think it's where we got to this point. And then that might sound a little small to you, but you did just glaze over that. December 6th. Now, why is this recycling coordinator just learning that that's an actual date compared to something that was just floated? I have no idea that we're going to even open that building this year. So now we're talk about miscommunication or lack of communication or thereof. I don't know where we are with handicap and with striping and with signs and with final approval and right of occupancy. I have none of that information. Why is the person that is setting up shelves and recruiting volunteers and you know, training the current employees and also getting equipment and doing whatever, not in that conversation? So that would be very challenging, I think, for any employee to say, okay, now all of a sudden, I don't even know what that is. Is that 10 days? I did not know. And it sounds like that's a Saturday. Is that correct? And is that also the Saturday that the one employee you have back there is not here? So, I mean, just that. I mean, why are we not having, why am I just hearing about that right now? So that's been an ongoing issue. So there's an example. And it sounds small, but it's not. How do I plan for something that I didn't even know about?
Okay, I'll let you rebut, Supervisor Lutke.
It was in the weekly meeting that you were, Paul, these are what we're
Okay.
talking about. The clerk can confirm, Lisa can confirm, and it's coming down to the timing of the work that has to be done and what we have to do in the conversations with the building official.
And I saw this. Was I here to see this email for this?
It was,
See, this is small, Mr. Handy. What do you mean? Look at you got this room full of people here. It's degraded to the point that you and I generally, we'll just stand here, we'll argue back and forth, and neither one of us is gonna give, because you're right. So this is where we're at, guys. I'm sorry. Months, if not 2 years, this has been a challenge for me. You can hear it in my voice. This is stressful. It's stressful sitting here right now. I'm doing my best. Now my voice is breaking up, but I think I'm being clear. I can't work with Supervisor Andy in any capacity around recycling. If that's just the case, then I have to forfeit this position. So
So
that's it.
then that would have to go to a vote. No, your point to call the question would have to go to a vote first.
You have a vote on the motion.
Right, okay, but, so I've heard you say it twice now. And, so I'm willing to do, with respect to Supervisor Lutke and Supervisor Hendrickson, I'm willing to do and play a part in whatever I would need to try to, help create a situation to where you'd be comfortable to stay. Okay? But ultimately it's gonna come down to you. But twice now you've said something that kind of makes it sound like you're essentially giving an ultimatum that either Andy Lutke gets removed as your supervisor or you won't accept the position because you can't work with him. So is that, I just want
Yeah,
clarification.
no,
Is that
no,
what
it's
you're
not,
saying?
it's not an ultimatum at all, because I know that will never work with this town board or any town board, and it shouldn't. And I wouldn't agree, I would agree with that, to not let an employee walk in and go, get rid of this guy or give me this or that, or I'm quitting. It's like, that's not how, that's not how you work a business or work a team. What I'm saying is that for the best of the recycling center, Andrew and I cannot work together to continue improving that program or to have it be at the standard of what this public has asked for and will demand whether I'm here or not. So that's what I am saying is that as it almost be, not to equate Andy with a tool, and I do not mean that as a joke, but if I had a tractor and you guys are like, this is what you have, you got to make this happen. It's like, I can't go on working this tractor to get the results you need. So then you'll have to find somebody else to work this tractor because I don't have the tools I need to keep that program as successful as it is.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's not an ultimatum.
No.
That makes it sound like you're willing to look and explore other options. And again, I'm just gonna leave this saying that I'm willing to play whatever part I can to try to create a workable situation. So Supervisor Cole, last comments?
It feels like, it's kind of feels like I'm getting pushed to either be unfair to you, Paul, which I don't think is great, or be unfair to Andy. And honestly, all things given equal, I'd probably leave with staff. Because supervisors kind of get the short end sometimes, and that's how it works, all things being equal. And I feel like it almost is pretty equal hearing you guys talk. It's hard for me to say who's right now, given what I know. So I guess my question is, Paul, would it be possible if we were going to use you as helping to move to this new method of operating where there's no direct supervisors, would it be workable for you if all supervisors were your liaisons, including Andy?
Yeah, that is fine. Yeah, I can report to a town board if it's a decision coming from the board. It's actually all I've ever asked. And I feel that when I have challenged a decision that has come my way, as in like, you can't use the blue truck anymore, it's like, where did that come from? And it's like, is the board aware of this? Because I did not think a supervisor had the power to do something like that. Just as an example, not something I want to argue, but that has been one of the contentious points of our relationship in doing what's best for that recycling center.
Because I guess in short, I'm not in favor of cutting Supervisor Ludke off from recycling because he has a lot of skin in that game as well. Not as much as you though, 6 years and willing to come in here and argue about it for this long, I think speaks volumes. But yeah, I'm not willing to cut Andy off, but I would love to see you stay, and I'm willing to pretty much work with any other solution that if we can get those two things satisfied. Keep Andy involved, keep you, but make it so you guys aren't butting heads. Anything we can do to do that, I'm in favor of.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm sitting at the table and let's figure it out.
Well, I will free my calendar for tomorrow if I can be of any help to further some discussion here. All right, last comments. All right, the motion that's on the table is to remove Supervisor Ludke from recycling. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. Motion fails 4-1. Any follow-up motion?
I guess there has to be a question to Paul. There has to be a question to Paul. I'll raise my hand too.
Yep, Supervisor Hendrickson?
Perhaps I'd like to make a motion that we give Paul one more day with the opportunity to sit down and come up with a solution, talking with Andy and John.
So he has tomorrow already.
Okay,
Are
I
you
thought
looking
today
at-
was the last.
No,
day.
no, it was, no, it got changed. It was originally the
Okay.
25th and it got changed.
All right,
So it's till the end of
That was my
tomorrow.
understanding, and I understand that, so I knew that.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't want to step on you, but
It's fine.
all right. Do you have anything, Supervisor Lucky?
No, just,
Okay.
Paul, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We are.
I have respect for Andy, and I didn't want to come in here and I didn't want to, he's done a lot for this township and he does a lot individually. I generally feel like I have tried as hard as I possibly can. I'm not going to go into it, but I have exhausted every avenue and every tool that I have. But there is just some people that just are not going to work well together, and it has affected the recycling center program, and I'm just not allowed to. I'm just not willing to let that continue. So either we find a way forward, and either he's just not part of that program or I'm not part of the program. So that, I guess, I don't mean that as an ultimatum, but that's just the reality of it because I have too much respect for what these guys did and how hard they've worked, to, just walk away without trying, to the very end here. So that's where I'm at.
Try till the very end.
Yep.
And like I said, I will make whatever time is necessary tomorrow if I can play a part in it.
Appreciate that.
I will just note, any meeting tomorrow can't have a quorum of supervisors present, so it would just be two. If that's yourself, Supervisor Olson and Supervisor Ludke, that would meet, keep you below the quorum threshold. I would also just note as a matter, since it would only be two of you, you won't have a quorum present. It's not properly noticed. No structural changes or policy changes could be made tomorrow. You can discuss and agree in concept unless if the board were to delegate that authority to the individuals present tomorrow at the meeting to make that determination here tonight. But otherwise, structurally, nothing is going to change tomorrow. You all can come to a handshake agreement, but again, the board is the policymaker. It's not Supervisors Ludke and Olson tomorrow.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Any other motions on that? Paul, did you have something?
No, what would you like to see? When do you want me to contact you in the morning? Should we leave it at that? Okay,
Let me know.
time, what works for best for
I'll
you?
make whatever happen.
Okay. I'll think about it. I'll see what I can do and if I think there's even a possibility for a way forward.
Yeah. I hope you do. I really sincerely hope.
No,
you
and I
do.
appreciate that. And I'm getting that. I get it. I do. And again, with I had no idea that there was gonna the impact that my resignation to the public. I did not expect that much of an outpouring of support. So that it's gonna help me go forward here, that this is that important to them. That I'm back there. So I'm gonna do what I can.
See what we can make work out.
Yeah.
I appreciate all your time tonight.
Thanks for all your time too. And
On behalf of the whole board, I know this was not
you're welcome.
a fun evening for you, but we really, really do appreciate it.
No, it's important. And I think it's important going forward too. And again, as an employee, I've been begging for these 4 points for years and years. And I think there'll be a lot less conflict for future employees and current employees if we have these tools. That's all we've been asking for.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Sounds great, Paul. All right, thank you.
Supervisor Olson, if I may just briefly.
Yes.
I don't want to
Please,
keep us
Mark.
any longer, but the board's motion last time did require that if you're going to walk back your resignation, that it be
Yeah.
in writing.
Right.
So just make sure it's in writing and you have a date on it, so it's clear just for town records. That would be great.
Clear.
But otherwise, failure to receive one we didn't set a time, so it'll just be by end of business. Are you okay with that?
Yep. It's right on here. A deadline for Paul, recent resignation. Would you say is end of business 4:30 tomorrow?
Pretty.
We're okay, everybody? Okay.
And just keeping the clerk, Billy, up to speed with whatever decision you make. You can send that written resignation, walk back letter to her if you so choose.
That's what it's called, a walk back letter.
You call it whatever you want. I was gonna say recant, rescind, walk back. You could say it a million.
I just put the wrong word in there, so.
No,
Okay.
you can call it whatever you want. We'll get the intent of it.
Well, this has value for me. I really appreciate that you all even gave me this much time and I can feel and hear that you would like to stay and work and I will consider this.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you,
Thank
Paul.
thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, upcoming meetings, planning and zoning is December 16th at 6 p.m. Parks has a meeting on December 22nd at 6 p.m. Road and Bridge was canceled for December. There will not be a Road and Bridge meeting. And the next regular town board meeting is scheduled for December 9th at 6:30 right here.
Just
The-
The second.
At December 2nd. December 2nd workshop.
Do you need me at the December 2 workshop?
It's budget.
Yeah.
Oh.
Supervisor Lidke.
Good question on the floor. I don't feel it's going to the board. I don't know.
You have my cell phone if you need me.
I just wanted to, speak to the 6th. We have, the holiday craft fair because we will be meeting after that. So that's Saturday the 6th, along with breakfast Santa across the street and fingers crossed and everything we got that we're in the new building that day as well. So we'll post that on the website once we get the go on it. It's
Super.
tentative.
Sounds great. Anything else from the board?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Miller Burr made a motion and Supervisor Hendrickson seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed, motion carries. We are adjourned at 9:10.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.